This is the People Matter Show, and we have a special guest, Diego Sanchez. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm so happy to have you here, especially because you have such an amazing journey. I was reading about your, all everything that you've done in the last 20 years. But Diego, before we start, thank you once again for being here. I want to just make sure that people know who you are. You are the president for Housing Wire. Most people in the mortgage real estate industry, they know this is one of the best publications out there. But I was reading about you. You have been actually the CEO for Intelligent, another business out there, Travel Zoo, and you also have managed teams with Microsoft. So you've been in different industries. I was really impressed to see how throughout the years you've been in the area of advertising media in different areas. Tell us about your journey. How is it you went from technology all the way to housing?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey, but I think the through line is media. So when I joined Microsoft back in 2008, it was to join the MSN team, and it soon became the MSN and Bing team. So I was very focused at Microsoft on media, on the intersection of technology and media. And then, at Travel Zoo and at Rodale, those are media companies. They're just focused on the consumer, right? Like Travel Zoo is a travel publisher. Rodale has brands that you may know, like Men's Health and Women's Health and Runner's World. So I was in media, but I was in B2C media. And then after a year in ad tech, I joined HousingWire. So I had this media background, but I didn't really have a B2B media background. And I certainly didn't have any experience in housing. And so the past 6+ years, I've really been a student about business media and about the housing industry here in the United States. And it's been fascinating. I've really loved my job with HousingWire and am looking forward to continuing to grow the company in the coming years.
Yeah. I was looking at an interview, you and Clayton, the CEO of your company, and they were saying that you started as an intern CRO, and I was really impressed to see how you have really evolved and not only learn about the housing industry but master. Now you are, I mean, your voice is really, people hear about you that you have a lot to contribute to the industry, and it's impressive to see, especially a Hispanic guy. I'm very passionate about Hispanics, by the way, like you, like yourself, having the opportunity to run one of the most successful media companies in the mortgage industry. So congrats.
Thank you for that. And, it's really been a great partnership with Clayton Collins, the CEO of HousingWire, and with the board at HousingWire. It has been a really collaborative relationship. I think we've been doing really good stuff to grow the business. We've been growing. We're not just a mortgage media company anymore. We're really embedded in real estate as well. We've been pushing into title, appraisal and valuation. We're thinking a lot about home building and multifamily. So we really want to be all things housing. And so it's been great to be, a student, not only because, I'm learning about housing, but like I'm putting those learnings to use to grow this company into, really, we want to be the Bloomberg of housing. We want to bring media and information services, data and analysis and research to every housing professional in the United States.
That's awesome. Absolutely, you go in that direction. I mean, things have changed. Times are changing. Technology is evolving faster than ever. What are some of the things that you have seen in the last 3 or 4 years in the housing industry that is evolving fast and that you are impressed about regarding technology?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. So one, I don't think that there's as much of a wall between mortgage and real estate as there used to be. And that's one of the reasons that Clayton and I have been trying to build HousingWire into an all things housing company. I think if you're a mortgage professional, you really need to know what's happening in real estate. And if you're a real estate professional, you really need to know what's happening in mortgage, because technology is bringing those two verticals closer together. And there are a lot of companies that do the whole transaction, right?
Right.
From end to end for someone buying a home or selling a home. And so I think you have to be well versed on all the different verticals within housing. And I think technology has led us here. I think another big, technology that I've been keeping my eye on, as we went through COVID, people didn't necessarily want to get into a closing room to close a transaction, get into the same room with somebody if they needed to sign a document. They didn't really want to sign paper anymore. And so moving more and more of the home purchase or home sale into the cloud, digitizing that process and making it more seamless and making it less error prone, I think has been another technology trend that I've been keeping my eye on. And then the third, and this is perhaps the most exciting, and I think we're just seeing it start to play out. There's AI, artificial intelligence, and what some companies are doing, some companies in mortgage, some companies in real estate, a lot of the big mortgage servicers, they are using AI in some really interesting ways to, again, make the process more seamless, to come up with offers for the consumers that they already speak to understand the sentiment of that consumer when that consumer calls. A lot of interesting things that are happening and are really enabling those companies to grow their revenue without necessarily growing their headcount. So I think that's a really interesting trend to keep an eye on as well.
That's interesting. Not growing revenue, but not growing your headcount. That's really interesting. Now, let me ask you, in 2025, we are in January 2025 right now. And what have you seen is the trend right now? I mean, it's a tough market, low inventory, high rates. People are looking for better ways. What is the trend that you're looking in the industry, both real estate and mortgage? What are you looking at that is creating the biggest news right now?
Yeah, so there's really two data points that we track really, really closely at HousingWire to get a sense for the health of the housing market. One is mortgage rates. Mortgage rates really drive a lot of the conversation and a lot of the deals. And unfortunately, I think we're probably going to see rates stay higher for even longer. We're over 7% right now. And I think we'll probably stay in that range for a good chunk of 2025. And the other key data point that we look at really closely is the inventory of homes that are available for sale. And we can actually track this really, really closely. We bought a company 2 years ago called Altos Research, and that gives us proprietary data, housing market data, real-time housing market data for every zip code in the country. So we can drill down and look really closely at different cities and even zips. We can, look a little higher level at the state, or we can look at regional and even national picture for the housing market. And I'd say when it comes to homes that are available for sale right now, it's definitely better than it was during the COVID housing market boom. We're starting to get back to inventory levels where supply is a little bit more in balance with demand. However, it really is a tale of two markets, right? So you have the South, the Southwest that have much more inventory and are starting to get back to 2019 levels of inventory and even higher in states like Texas and Florida. And then you have the Midwest and the Northeast, which still are very tight overall when it comes to inventory. There are not a lot of homes available for sale, and those markets are still very much sellers markets. So you're starting to see prices decline in the South and the Southwest, whereas in the Midwest and the Northeast, you're not seeing that.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important when it comes to homes available for sale that you drill down. You got to drill down into the regions and even the states and even into some cities to really understand what is going on.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually was listening to one of the economists from Fannie Mae yesterday or the day before. Precisely, he was pointing out Texas and Florida, the two states that our prices are declining. Totally agree. Now, let me ask you, for those people watching and that they want to access information, is for the general consumers out there, loan officers, realtors that want to access this information, Is that public? Do they have to subscribe, or what's the deal here?
Yeah, so housingwire.com is our website, and we have a number of free newsletters that people can subscribe to. If you're a loan originator, you probably want to subscribe to our Lending Life newsletter. If you're a real estate agent, you probably want to subscribe to our Real Estate Daily newsletter. The site is a subscription site, right? You get your first article for free. But then if you want to keep coming back and reading our content, we do ask you to pay for a subscription. So that's HousingWire. And then we integrate data from Altos Research into the reporting that we do on HousingWire. Altos is also a separate subscription primarily focused on real estate agents who want to become an expert on the data in their local market and then share that expertise with their sphere, right? Maybe even drive leads based on that expertise, through email blasts and through social blasts. Altos is also a subscription product. So you can get your first market report for free. But then if you want to get additional market reports on additional zip codes or even counties or cities, you do have to subscribe to that product.
So your career is fascinating because obviously you have evolved from different companies, different industries into housing. What has been the biggest challenge for you now that you're in the housing industry?
Over the past 6 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, it has been nonstop for the past 6 years. So while I'm learning about housing and trying to be a little bit more of an expert on housing every single day, it's just been a crazy market for 6 years straight. Like, I don't think it's slowed down ever in the 6+ years that I've been at the company. Right? Like, 2018 was crazy in its own way. 2019, 2020, we had the start of the pandemic. Later in 2020, the market just like took off and was insane for a couple of years, and then it fell off a cliff, and we've been, kind of at the bottom of that cliff for the past couple of years. And now it seems like, things are starting to perk up. There's been different presidential administrations, different politics of housing. So it has really been nonstop. So just when you feel like you're starting to get a grip on what's happening in housing, there's a ton of new stuff that you've got to learn. So, I think that's been challenging, but that's also for me really exciting. I like learning new things every day and keeping myself challenged.
Yeah. So on the media side, obviously your business is B2B mainly. What's one of these? I assume media is media, no matter what industry you are in. But what has been for you the biggest opportunity slash challenge? Because I always believe that challenges are opportunities that you have created in the last 10, 15 years since or 20 plus years that you've been in the media industry. What is, if you can refer to a specific challenge that turned into opportunity throughout these years? I know that you've been in so many different companies. Can you share with us some experience that you had in the past?
Yeah. Look, I think I always aspired to, move up the ranks in the different companies that I was at. I wanted to take on new challenges. I think what was hard for me at some companies is I don't think I'm a big company person. So, I really enjoyed my 2 years at Microsoft, but it's a really big company and it's hard to see the impact of what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I think I'm somebody that needs that tangible feedback and needs to see the impact that I'm making. Something that, like, that's an input that helps me do better every day. And so, I think it took me a little while to understand that, I might not be, an entrepreneur that starts up businesses, but I am an entrepreneur, right? I do like to have autonomy and freedom within a larger business to do my thing and to build businesses within businesses. And it took me a while to understand that that's who I am as a person. And I think it's one of the things that makes me a great fit for HousingWire, because we're all about growth and we're all about ideas and we're all about being entrepreneurial, and we want to be the premier housing media and information services company out there. And so, that kind of mission and goal it really requires somebody with an entrepreneurial spirit and somebody who's willing to learn every day. So it's been a good fit for me, but it took me a while to understand the fit.
Yeah. For those people that are trying to follow your path and to follow those, to find those opportunities out there, and I see you basically saying, I was looking for opportunities where I can make an impact. And what kind of advice would you give to some people out there that are in the media industry or in the marketing industry that are looking to grow?
Yeah, it's I think it's important to be at a company and to work for a manager that appreciates that, right?
Yeah.
Because some bigger companies have great leaders and great managers, and then, every big company has leaders and managers that maybe aren't so great and maybe want to, are more about themselves and kind of just getting more power or playing politics. And so I think you need to align yourself with a manager and mentors and a company that will respect and appreciate your entrepreneurial or entrepreneurial talents, right? And don't want to squash them. The companies, and sometimes it takes being at a company for 6 to 12 months to really understand it. But once you do understand that, I think it does make sense to think about that next move and to not stay stuck
Right.
at a company or under a manager that doesn't appreciate your talents.
That's great advice. Hey, mentors. I think mentors are makes a lot of people stronger with a better understanding of the vision and your future. Did you have a mentor?
I haven't really had somebody that has been like a through line throughout my career. And so each company that I've worked at, I feel like I gravitated towards the people who were kind of like me, who were entrepreneurial,
Mhm.
and thinking about growth, and also people who like are willing to teach and willing to pass those skills and knowledge on to the people that are coming up.
Yeah.
So I think every company I've been at, I sort of have gravitated towards and identified with leaders like that.
Mhm.
But I haven't stayed consistently with somebody throughout my career. And then, like, really the last two or three jobs when I was in more senior roles, I feel like I was more the mentor than having a mentor. And I do maintain relationships with most of my team members from previous companies. And I feel like I actually really love that a lot of them still will, come to me and ask questions about their next career move, seek feedback about their current job. I think that to me is a sign that, I was a pretty good mentor when I was their manager.
That's awesome. That's great. So I mean, people like yourself, where you have climbed the ladder every time that you have that you made a move is because you're expecting something better for yourself. What has been for you that drive? What has been that motivation behind it? We all have a motivation behind it. Can you share a little bit about yours?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's all about family. I have two boys. One is 12. One is 9. They're both soccer players. Like I was a soccer player when I was growing up, and they're both bright, curious, fun kids, and it's really all about them. And so everything that I do and aspire to in my profession is so that I can provide them with the most opportunity and the most life experiences that I can while they're while they're with me, right? Like you
Yeah.
don't have that long with them, and it feels like it's flying by. So really, it's all about them. And then for me, like when it comes to my career in media, what I really love is I love a couple of things. I love building audiences, building profitable journalistic companies, and there aren't a lot of those out there. So it is a feat to do that. And I love mentoring the next leaders, right?
Nice.
And so that's what keeps me motivated in my profession. But my core motivation, it's all about family.
Nice. So you're mentoring a lot of, it seems that you love mentoring. What have you seen when you're talking to your peers and other professionals in your industry? What have you seen that is the main obstacle? Why people are not evolving, not going after the next job or taking the decision? What's driving that, or not driving? Basically, what is stopping them from making decisions and grow like you have?
Yeah, specific to housing, it has been a really tough stretch for the past couple of years. And so I think sometimes when you are in a very difficult market and there are market forces beyond what you can do as an individual or beyond what your company can do, I think that can be a little bit demotivating for people. And so I think that's definitely one thing that we have to think about and talk through. What I say to that is, look, there are always companies that are growing and people that are growing no matter what the market is, right? And so it really is a lot about mindset and always being that person that wants to take market share. But sometimes taking market share means taking it from other people, when times are tough. And sometimes it means like a rising tide is lifting all boats, and like there's just more pie to go around. So, but there are people who absolutely grow no matter what, right? And so, like, I think it's important to look to those folks when you get demotivated by the market. And then, like, it's not easy being a successful executive who also wants to be a good dad and a good husband, and a good friend to people, right? Like, there's only so much time in the day and in the week, and it really is, you have to prioritize these various things. And if you want to be a successful executive, you got to put in the work, you got to put in the grind, and it's not all glamour, right? Like,
Yeah.
every day you gotta grind out a lot of stuff and deal with a lot of problems and fires that nobody else is going to solve, right? So you can't pass the buck because you have to go, to your kid's soccer game, right? You got to do both, right? And probably sleep less. So I think it takes a certain motivation and willingness to work. And, I think it's okay to not have that. I actually think it's okay to, to have your job and have that support your life and not want to get ahead. You're choosing the life end of the life work balance, and to me that's totally okay. For me personally, that doesn't work for me. What I tell people who are aspiring executives is, like, you just have to, there's no such thing as work life balance if you want to be a rising executive and move your way up the ranks. You have to just figure it out and come to some kind of harmony between work and your life, and you really have to make sure that you like your job.
Yeah.
It's really tough to put in hours and rise up the ranks if you don't like what you do and you don't like the company that you work for.
Yeah. And no, I agree. You have to, a work balance is hard. It's hard. And especially if you want to succeed, there has to be some kind of imbalance. And your partner, your family have to support you. But at the end, let me ask you, when you're sacrificing yourself, and you just said it before, your main motivation is your family, and you're sacrificing those hours, and you like what you do, and you are in an environment that you like. At the end of the day, you have to have some kind of motivation that keeps you going. Obviously, family, obviously, money. But why people do you think? And and this is, remember, this is a show for people that understands other people that are thriving like yourself. Why would you say there's people that are not like you?
Not like me in what way?
And why do you think there's people not like you that are taking that risk, sacrificing family, and basically obsessed about success and about growing a company? And why do you think that a lot of people are not motivated the way that you are? What makes the difference between you and the rest?
Yeah, that's tough. I think it just might be, an internal thing. Like, you either got it or you don't, right? And I have no judgment again on the folks who don't necessarily want to move up the ladder, and want to prioritize life over work. I think that's great, actually. It's just not me. So that to me feels like something that's just inherent to the person. And then, like, you do have to have a certain skill set and talent level and be willing to learn all the time. And one of the things that I see, now that I've been in the position where I've been hiring and building teams for a long time now. There are a couple things that I look for that you either have or you don't.
Right.
One of those is a willingness to learn.
Mhm.
You either have it or you don't.
Right.
And another is enthusiasm and a willingness to grind. You either have it or you don't. right? And so, I think those two things in particular, to me, like are much, much more important than like the brand names on your resume, your pedigree, what schools you went to, like willingness to grind and willingness to learn. I'll take that every day.
So willingness to grind, and I'm just digging in you because at the end, a lot of people, my purpose on this is learn from interviews like this one where someone like you can teach other people that are trying to be like you, or maybe not, like you said. I mean, this is not, it might not be for everyone, obviously, but grinding. How do you know if it's someone that is going to be when you're interviewing someone? How do you know if it's going to be a good fit or not?
Yeah, it's taken me a long time to figure that out. Interviewing is a very difficult skill to learn. So, what I do is I just ask questions that really poke and prod at, what they actually did in their last job, and not only what they did when times were great, but like when the shit hits the fan. Is that okay?
That's fine. This is for adults.
Maybe we can edit it out.
Yeah, we
When
can
the
always.
hits the fan, right? Like how do you operate then? What is your daily grind look like when times are tough? And I think that there are questions that you can formulate that really get at that, because everybody in every job goes through the peaks and the valleys, right? And so when times are great, like I said before, like it's, you're feeling good, you rah rah rah, you can get the work done. But when it's really tough, like it has been in housing for the past couple of years, that's when you truly can see the grit and the willingness to, even if the environment just stinks, right? You're still putting in 4, 5, 6 hours. If you're in sales, 4, 5, 6 hours a day of calling and prospecting and business development. You're still following up with your prospects and clients. You're still checking in with people, even if they don't have money to spend, and asking them how you can add value, right? Like that's the grit and the grind that I think about and I try to ask about in the interview process. And then like with willingness to learn, you just ask people about their hobbies and their interests. And I think that says a lot about a person, right? Like if they're always reading books and listening to podcasts and spending their time learning outside of work, they're probably somebody that's going to be willing to do that inside work as well.
So let's keep going in that direction on potential managers that you want to hire, for example. And are you more of a micromanager or more like this is your job description, this is what we expect, this is what we want from you, and let them run? What
Yeah,
is your style?
absolutely the latter. And in fact, if I am micromanaging you, you're probably not going to be lasting very long in the company. Just being realistic, because I need to hire people who, we can deliberate about the strategy. We can create the strategy together. I can finalize and approve the strategy, and then you go and you execute. And obviously, I want to stay involved as you execute. So I always do at least weekly one-on-ones with all the managers that are on my team, all the leaders that are on my team. And those one-on-ones, we're checking in on progress. You're telling me about the obstacles that are getting in your way of achieving our vision, our shared strategy. And so I'm staying involved. You're going out and getting it done. So to me, it's much less about like office FaceTime or like the number of hours that you're putting in during the week. And it's much more about, are you achieving the strategy that you and I built together? And so, yeah, that's how I really like to manage people. In fact, that's the only way that I can manage people, because I'm just too busy to be micromanaging the leaders on
Right.
my team.
Diego, I mean, there is a lot of changes since COVID. One of those main one, I would say, people working from home. What are some of the policies that you guys have in your company right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's really all about communication, and we are a distributed company. We have an office in Dallas, but most of the company works from home. And so, every manager needs to have that weekly one-on-one and that weekly touch point at least, right? And you should be calling, the people on your team almost every day, if not every day, right? And just having conversations. about how it's going and what the obstacles are. And so at HousingWire, we've gotten really focused on using Slack for asynchronous communication. Then if you're going back and forth a couple times on Slack and you're not really resolving something, you got to pick up the phone. You either pick up the phone, give somebody a call on their cell, hop into a huddle on Slack, do a video call on Zoom, whatever it is. We hate it when, people just keep going back and forth on something
Emails back and forth. Yeah.
in Slack and they're not coming to any kind of resolution. That's just a waste of everybody's time, right? And so Slack is really important. Picking up the phone is really important. And then meetings are incredibly important. And so you got to make sure you're not wasting people's time with meetings. People you shouldn't hop into a meeting with 12 other people and just be giving updates to each other, right? Like you can put that in a Slack or you can put that in an email. And so really using meetings to brainstorm, to debate issues, to solve issues, to figure out what the obstacles are. That's really good use of meetings. And if you can do it in 60 minutes, I think you can do it in 20 minutes. So we really try to keep the meetings short and punchy, and have people prepare for the meetings, so their agendas, and then have next steps coming out of the meetings. So I think with Slack, with picking up the phone, with those weekly one-on-ones, and with treating meetings with respect and treating your colleagues with respect in meetings, I think you build a good culture of distributed work.
So let's just we almost about to end. We have about 5 minutes.
Went so fast.
I know. Let's talk about your industry in general, not just housing, but the media and marketing. Also, one of the industries that has evolved so fast in technology. Technology is being key for media. What have you seen that has the most positive results? Because I do believe that not every technology works. There's some of them that are clunky. There's some of them that do not work as well. But what have you seen for marketing companies and media companies that you've seen that work the most for results on a B2B business? What have you seen that is...
It's a great question. I think the things that work the best, well, it depends on the tactic, right? So if you want to be a thought leader and you want to be perceived as a thought leader, or you want to get your brand name out there, there are certain tactics like webinars and sponsored interviews, podcast appearances that will help you achieve that goal of being a thought leader. If you want to drive leads, there's a whole different set of products that make a lot of sense. I found that with lead generation, newsletter ads, specifically text ads within newsletters, are great. Virtual events like demo days are really, really good. And then live events. Wow, actually, live events to me really meet both needs, right? You can be a thought leader and you can drive a whole bunch of leads into your funnel if you are a big presence at certainly at a HousingWire event, but any other industry event may work as well. So, it really, to me, depends on the tactic, but we spend a lot of time thinking about ROI at HousingWire and the specific goals that our clients have, right? Usually a client wants to do both. They want to be a thought leader and they want to drive leads. And so we come up with campaigns that give them both of that. But there are some clients that come to us and say, hey, I just really need leads. Or there are some clients that say, we're going to relaunch our brand and we need to just do a pure branding campaign and be considered to be thought leaders. So we bring all the tools in our toolbox to that conversation with our clients.
Great. Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Got a little frog in your throat.
Diego, yeah, going through a cold here.
No, yeah.
I'm in New Jersey, by the way. New Jersey, it's we went through a tough last week with a single-digit temperatures. You're in DC, right?
I'm in Brooklyn, so
you're right here in Brooklyn, huh? Okay.
So I was right there with you with that cold. It was very cold.
Oh yeah. So last question for you. Obviously, your journey has been impressive, and I hope that a lot of people can learn from your journey and your experiences. Let's assume that we go back 30 years from now, and you have your 20-year-old, 22-year-olds just finished from college. You're Diego Sanchez, just graduated from college. Now, with your experience that you have, what would you tell that 20-year-old or 22-year-old Diego Sanchez?
Yeah, I mean, it is a great question. I think that we talked a lot about it during this interview. I would tell him, align yourself with a company and a manager that respects your very unique set of talents. Like, I know I'm not for everybody, and there have been companies that I have been a terrible fit for. And it doesn't help to try to like grind that out if you know it's not a fit. And so I think I spent too many years, like flailing a little bit and working for companies that just didn't respect my unique set of talents and my entrepreneurial spirit. And I wish I hadn't wasted that time.
Right.
And so like, I would have told him it's really hard because like I don't come from money. And so money was an important part of my thought process when I took jobs. But now that I can look back, like, yeah, the money is important and it helps, especially if you have a family to support and a mortgage to pay. But especially when you are in your 20s, you can live very cheaply when you're in your early 20s,
Yeah, yeah.
very cheaply. Find a job, find an employer, find a manager that respects your set of talents and will let you flourish. Don't kick around at a company for years just because of the money.
Wow. That's great. I love it. Diego, it was a pleasure having you, pleasure meeting you in person, actually. I seen you in some of the NBAs, I think, some of the NBA shows. You guys normally have a set, no?
Yeah, we had a set at NBA annual, and actually, I don't, are you going to servicing next week?
No, I'm not. We also have a partner in a different mortgage company as well, but somebody else will.
Got it.
Somebody else will.
So we'll have another set at servicing, and we're going to start to do that at more events. We like bringing our news desk and our news and data mentality to these different events.
That's great. That's keep doing it. I think that's great. Uh, Diego, I appreciate the time. I know that you're a busy guy. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you for your obviously contribution to the show. And this is the People's Matter show, and people like yourself. I hope that we can inspire other people as well to learn from people like you. Thank you.
Miguel, it was such an honor joining you today. Thank you so much for inviting me.